We're gonna paint a snake hiding in a rose. I design. First I'm sketching the placement for the rose and then for the tail and the neck for a snake. We try to place the rose above the lines. It goes from the edge of the nostril to the outer corner of the eye. The rose will also take up some space under the eyebrow. I'm gonna use a beautiful cake cherry rose and a half-inch angle brush to paint petals of the rose. When you pick up the paint, do it carefully so that the white color remains white and does not mix with the pink. I sometimes use a wet wipe several times when painting even one rose to clean the white. I draw the outer petals of the rose, leaving the center empty. Before drawing a petal on the eyebrow, take more paint. And we are closing the circle of petals. Make your movements wavy to make the rose more voluminous. Okay, now we have the outer layer of the rose, and while it's drying, which is very important for drawing the rose, we will draw the snake. Let's add some contrast where it's needed. To paint the snake, I'm picking up the regular black, pearl black, and gold colors from homemade split cake. I'm painting the snake's face first. Then I do neck from the flower in a curved shape to the head. Then I turn the brush to the other side. You can see how the snake immediately became three-dimensional. Repeating it again for better contrast. And draw the loops of the snake. Don't draw it too low so as not to make the drawing too heavy downwards. And finishing with the tail. Using the very edge of the brush, I'm finishing drawing the tail. Now the rose petals are definitely dry and we can start drawing the bud. I'm creating the center of the rose. I leave it to dry and draw the side petals. That is the second layer of the petals. I put the brush at an angle and the petals turn out sharper. The lower the petals, the sharper they are. And I'm closing the circle of the rosebud. Now we can draw the third layer of petals. Don't leave the holes in the rose and cover them with the petals. Using a side of lollipop sponge and stencil with suitable texture, I apply this pattern along the entire length of the snake. I'm using the lollipop sponge because it has the very narrow side. Even with this very narrow side, be careful. I'm picking the small holes to fit them to a tiny snake's body. Let's take off some extra paint from the stencil work. I'm using this wet wipe also to fix the shape of the snake's neck. And we have this pretty snake with beautiful color. I also use a wet wipe with the brush handle so as not to damage the good part of a drawing that we need. I use small angle brush and black and green colors. Now we can start to paint the leaves with black and green colors. I use a small angle brush and painting at the half of the leaf, then another half of the leaf. Using the edge of the brush, divide the leaf in a half with black. There should be very little black. Now I'm adjusting the leaf so that it has slightly sharp edges. You can always paint and rebuild your painting with one stroke. Next we move around the rose, especially in places that seem empty. I'm placing this leaf in a direction to the outer corner of the eye. And with this leaf I softly surround the eyebrow. And now we have only empty space here, and I'm gonna paint like a half of the leaf very close to the snake. And I found a place for one more low and wide leaf. You can even draw green in some places between the rose petals. The effect will be even better. Separately, I carefully bring the leaf to the edge of the rose petals. And now we can take a very thin brush and outline the snake and the leaves and the rose petals. The whole design smoothly frames the eye. I'm drawing a thin line on the bottom of the face. It's gonna be the snake's mouth. The eye of a snake is just a dot and a thin line. Then I outline the loop of a snake and the tail. And I'm gonna outline the flower starting with the leaves. You can draw the leaves in more detail in this point. If there is a petal next to the leaf, you can outline it. Just move in a circle. Now I'm loading my thin brush with black color. When we outline the front petal of the rose, it will immediately become very voluminous. I outline each and every petal, but only on the outer level. Don't be surprised that when you work with a thin brush, you just have to reload the paint more often. I'm trying to place my hands that you can see what I'm doing. And I'm finishing the outlining close to the hairline. I trace the petals as close as I can near the hairline, but you can leave them as it is because it will be partially covered with hair. The same thin brush I'm going to use with red color to paint the tone. I draw a long thin line with a short little branch at the end of it. Please make it curved. We have to avoid the straight lines in a face painting. Now I'm loading the same thin brush into the white color to paint the highlights. Take another brush or properly clean off the black paint if you're taking the same one. I did the highlights on the neck, on the head, and on the loop and the tail of the snake. I also noticed that I had some paint imprinted from my hand that was easy to wipe off. Now it looks great. The snake that hides behind the rose is ready. You can leave design like this or add even more details. For example, dots, starburns, glitter. I really hope that you got some inspiration for creativity from my class. Thank you for watching.
All right, you've made it to the end of the class. Congratulations! So I just want to remind you that if you feel like this is way too overwhelming and you would like to take it slowly at your own pace in the next couple of months, then I remind you that there is still an option to get the all access pass for a discounted price. And this option will expire very soon. So if you feel like you would like to replay this class and save the other classes to watch them a little bit later in a slower, self-paced mode, then take your chance now. There's going to be a screen with the button that will appear right now.